Comments, the Federal Highway Trust Fund monies are not ever spent and never have been spent on other than transportation purposes. So the diversion here is not a problem. If you're concerned that if we should increase federal revenues, that states would then choose to divert more of their funds to non-transportation purposes, we can certainly build in a maintenance of effort provision. And also, in terms of these optional tolling things we've allowed, we shouldn't allow any diversion of funds or the flexibility that's being granted beyond, uses the benefit those users. So I think there are ways to deal with that, but the bottom line is we need more investment. Now, Dr. Lomax, I know TTI, I appreciate your work. I always quote it, use it in trying to justify some people around here to move off of zero on funding. But this tolling, I'm a little disturbed about all the obsession and talk about tolling and congestion pricing and all that. And I think since you are in Texas, haven't we seen a little bit of tolling fatigue in Texas? Didn't they just pass a moratorium on more tolling there?
Absolutely, that's what our state legislature did in response to some public comment about we're sort of tired of tolling as the solution that's being enacted.
Right, and it didn't solve the problems.
Well, we're early on, but yeah, it hasn't solved the problems yet.
Okay.
We're afflicted with economic prosperity is the way we
Yeah.
describe it.
Yeah. Mayor Gilbert, you just said a couple of times quite high, the tolls. Can you give me a number how high was on those tolled lanes to avoid the congestion?
You know, it depends on the time of day. It can be upwards of $17, $18, $19 that people will pay in the toll lanes. And let me just say that.
How many miles is that for $18?
Well, that would be the entire length of the.
But I don't know the length of it. I've only been on it a couple of times.
About 10 miles.
Okay.
10 miles.
All right.
10 miles.
So, I mean, the question I have, and I turn to Mr. Brower, because in his testimony, he talks about hot lanes won't provide enough congestion relief. And so we're talking about variable pricing. And I mean, we're talking $1.70 a mile there. We've seen almost $5 a mile in DC. What kind of public acceptance do you think that is going to have? And how high do you have to price it to get to your targets to reduce congestion?
Chairman DeFazio, as we've done just our initial analysis of tolling, we are at a point of hypercongestion on the Portland system where we have so many vehicles at rush hour that the system is actually breaking down and the throughput collapses. Our consultants have told us that if we move a relatively small number of vehicles off the system at rush hour, it will flow much better, and we can actually see our throughput increase greatly. We already see that effect in a number of places today where throughput is better before rush hour than it is at rush hour.
So you think there are a lot of people optionally jumping into the curves and backed up traffic? They're not doing that because they have to get their kid to soccer at a certain time. They're not doing it because they have to get to work at a certain time or they leave work at a certain time. It's just people who decide to go out and therefore they won't come anymore and they'll change their schedules. So you think there's enough people that are just out there optionally that don't have to go somewhere when I wouldn't want to try and go anywhere. You think that's going to solve this?
Chairman DeFazio, I think there's probably a relatively limited number of people who are in that situation, but if we can move a few of them off, we actually did some public opinion research, and people saw as one of the best arguments in favor of tolling with variable rates that there are some opportunities for people to change their schedules, to move by a different mode, or to telecommute or take other ways of getting to work.
Some people may have that flexibility. The question is how many. We were very light here on the panel. I'm very disappointed that we really didn't get very much into technology. I mean, and there's one company in my district called Connected Signals. They have a very simple system where basically in the car, you know what, if you're on a road that has synchronized lights, you're sometimes tempted to speed up to try and get to the next light, or you're going to slow down. But this will tell you exactly, like there's a sweet spot where you can drive that whole road and never hit a light. You know, they're estimating that there could be, if we did a lot more coordinated signalization, synchronized signalization, we could save probably another % of fuel and mitigate congestion. You know, again, I was in Pittsburgh, smart traffic lights. You don't sit there when no one's coming. You know, it seems to me, and then when we ultimately get to, and we are a ways away, you know, driverless or substantially driver-assisted vehicles, and you don't have the stop and go so much. I've seen estimates so we can have twice the throughput on the existing roadways that we currently have. So, I mean, I really think that we're awfully heavy here on pricing, and I think we're heavy here on pricing because of the failure of the federal government to partner with local jurisdictions and to hold up its end of the bargain for a national transportation system. It isn't state by state. I didn't bring my poster today, my famous poster of the brand new Kansas Turnpike ending at the Oklahoma state line until we had the Eisenhower plan. You know, you know, this needs to be a coordinated federal system. We need to go heavily into the 21st century new technologies and look at all the options before us. And so with that, Madam Chair, thank you for holding this hearing.
Thank you very much, Chairman